With the Butt Kicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker. The future is feeling.
I'm Nicholas Dubois, co-sim Racing. We are Canadian. So what we did is for a real petrol head. He's really passionate about cars, as you can see behind me. We did a turnkey solution for him based on his needs. We try to gather as much information as we can on our client. And like we did today, we install a D-box system. We install ultra-wide cube control steering wheel. We try to provide the best quality for your budget. So let's say if you want a budget of 10 grand, we're gonna give you something that's the best for 10 grand. If you want 20 grand, then we always try to stay within your boundaries. We do try to make it as easy as possible. So the client, once we install everything, it's pretty much gonna be a turnkey. So he's gonna press start on his computer, and right after, we'll try to explain everything, how it goes, how it works, and then he's ready to go. Our aluminum is from USA, treated in Canada, cut in Canada. So we do sand all our aluminum piece just to make sure the powder coat sticks to it. And that's one of the reasons why we use powder coat, is to make sure you have the best aluminum finish in the industry. And our quality is beyond what you can get with any other competitors right now. We are really, really passionate about all the gear, all the cockpits, all the sim hardware. And that's why we want to create something that's really gonna reflect our passion into our product. Come visit us at advancedsimracing.com. You can always reach us if you have any questions. You can call us, you can text us, you can go on Facebook, like our page, ask us questions over there, and we'll make sure to answer every questions there is. We are very passionate about what we do, and we try to make it as easier for you to go into the sim racing world, because there's a lot of gear, there's a lot of options, but let us guide you through your process, and let's hope you'll be an Advanced Sim Racing customer.
A new era for the PRL makes its way to Japan. For the first time in series history, Fuji Speedway enters the spotlight for the top drivers in the Precision Racing League as they look to battle it out in Japan for its Formula 3 series powered by VCO tonight here on RaceSpot and VCO. Good evening, everyone. My name's Justin Prince. Alongside of the booth tonight is Taylor Burris, along with our producer and Zach Johnson, as we get ready to go racing for the first time at a brand new iRacing circuit. Taylor, this track new to the platform in the last couple weeks. Today, the PRL gets to see how it handles this racetrack here tonight.
And looking at how all the competitors have been competing here so far in just practice alone has been quite exciting, quite a lot of entertainment to see these competitors battling it out on such a historic racing circuit that finally makes its debut here on the iRacing service. And a lot of these drivers are excited about it. I'm excited about it here, covering the PRL for the season opener here tonight. It's going to be full of excitement this season here with the Formula 3s.
I'm so excited as well about this new campaign to see how drivers fare out for 2022 Season 3 here in the PRL. Lots of different facilities these drivers will be making their way to, starting with tonight, of course, in Fuji. But the schedule in of itself has a lot of discussion points. Japan, we stay here for Suzuka for the next race, but then you have a lot of wild cards. Sonoma's Cup layout, Alton Park mixed in there. You have Circuit Zolder mixed in. And of course, Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta closes out the schedule in August.
It certainly is a wide variety of very extraordinary circuits that Formula 3 cars are well known to compete on here all across the world, and it's going to be exciting to see how these drivers will be able to take on each one of these circuits. One thing I have to say, though, this is probably one of the most interesting schedules that involves a lot of elevation changes. Yes, I know maybe something like Circuit Gilles Villeneuve in Montreal would be not one of those types of circuits, but for the most part, every single one of these circuits has one or two major changes in elevations that they will have to tackle compared to any other season that they've competed in.
It's going to be intriguing how tonight fares out. Let's take a look towards your format, where there are two different classes for the first time, for those watching for the first time, should rather say, where the pro split is determined based on sinus, but the AM class has a minimum of 1,000 IR with a minimum of a D license 2.0 to be able to race in the Dallara F3 chassis. Open setups, a maximum fuel of about 50%. Drivers have 30 minutes open qualifying, with 40 minutes total estimated for the race time, 24 laps on the board for tonight. There's a drive-through penalty if you reach 13 incident points, and 17 incident points disqualifies you from tonight's event, Taylor. In other words, keep it clean, and you finish this race. Have a lot of trouble with on-track limits, and you're likely sending yourself to the pit lane an extra time or two.
You certainly are, and there is a couple of areas where drivers will have to be careful with going off track to, one, either receive that off track notification or a slowdown penalty. And of course, some of those major areas that we're going to be seeing here tonight is going to be starting over at turn 1 at Daichi, which is going to be a very tricky corner for drivers to make sure they don't go off corner, exit, and go over those rumble strips. Then, of course, you have turn 3, Coca-Cola corner, that will provide an opportunity for drivers to try to make some great passing opportunities, but it's so easy though when you're coming off that corner to really go off corner exit and into those very nice areas where you can really stretch out your legs. And then there's several other corners that provide some pretty much some no-no zones for competitors when it comes to getting that off track penalty that will cost a lot of valuable time and positions during your race.
As the drivers get themselves sorted out for qualifying, I'd like to take the time to remind you of the presenting sponsors for the F3 series for the PRL, presented and powered by VCO. First, Advanced Sim Racing. As well, with the power in tonight's coverage, brought to you by the Virtual Competition Organization. Tonight's coverage also presented by Advanced Sim Racing, owned and operated by passionate sim racers. Advanced Sim Racing designs and builds the sturdiest and most durable aluminum profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. All PRL members get a 5% discount on ASR products using the Precision5 coupon code. Tonight also presented by RaceLab apps. RaceLab helps you improve your driving skills with modern overlays, race statistics, and native VR integration. You can get the best out of iRacing. Start using it now for free at racelab.app. Tonight's coverage also brought to you by the Butt Kicker. Butt Kicker products' incredible immersion include realism for every game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. And by Ninja Trader. Ready to compete against the financial markets? Supporting more than 60,000 users across the globe, Ninja Trader provides award-winning trading software and brokerage services. Ninja Trader is always free to use, and for advanced charting, backtesting, and trade simulation, visit ninjatrader.com to get started with a risk-free trading simulator and start tracking your performance. As drivers make their way around the racetrack, they have the next about 20 minutes or so to be able to set their fastest qualifying times around the circuit tonight, Taylor. Let's talk about how these drivers will perform for this evening, because David Holland is at the top of the board for the pro class, while Kevin Santana is amongst some of your top AM competitors in the early going to qualifying, but it's still early. They have about an estimated 14 laps they can turn throughout this span here.
They certainly can, and looking so far at the qualifying rates, we see that David Holland is the pole sitter overall, as well as your pro pole sitter. Kevin Santana is one of 3 AM drivers inside the top 10 overall, as they are working their way through, trying to get their first qualifying laps in. Several have already run multiple laps already, but it's going to be interesting to see that this open qualifying format is going to improve on some qualifying attempts and also hinder others' qualifying attempts as they progress through this qualifying session.
And of course, for those who watched along for the last season for this championship, lots of intense battling, but it was Michael Diaz, remember, who won the championship by 47 points over Alex Fournier. So the Precision Racing esports machine looking to back up the performance when it comes to this season. Still following along with some of the drivers down the front straight away for reference, and you can already see the differences in the line marks when it comes to this racetrack here. And of course, for a lot of these competitors, it's a blank slate, especially if you're someone, say, Michael Kofre or anybody in this field. A lot of newcomers.
Yeah, a lot of newcomers indeed, looking through some of the timing and scoring, as well as also through some of the notes regarding that the PRL was able to show us regarding some of the new drivers that are coming on board. I mean, a lot of returning veterans as well, but you know, you have the Lunatic Martin Sports Racing team of Alex Wright, Luke Davis coming on board. Flying Husky has a couple of drivers with Phil Armaro coming on, Rob Campbell, as well as also several other drivers who are going to be making their way through, as well as returning favorites. One driver who I see on here that I remember calling back in the GTE era of the PRL is none other than Takeshi Kita, Mr. Sneaky, who's out there qualifying right now, currently towards the back half of the field, but he's always finds his ways to sneak his way up through the field.
Keep in mind that Kita did not set a time in practice, so I have to see if Takeshi Kita is able to back up some speed in for Atomic Racing. Of course, when it comes to this championship, there's the Pro class, the M class. We mentioned the Pro being Michael Diaz coming with that title. It was Greg Doucette who won the most recent M title for this series, not here currently. Richard Swindell is amongst the highest runners on track for qualifying from that championship. For reference sake, in the 33 machine tonight, currently is back in 24th overall, though, in qualifying.
Got a lot of work to do right now. He's currently about 1.2 seconds back from your overall pole sitter right now, actually making it 1.5 seconds back. So he's got a lot of work to do here, as he's going to see if he can set another time before the clock expires. He's got enough time to make at least a couple of more laps here if he keeps it clean.
Take a look around the racetrack as many of these drivers try and sort their way around what is Net's corner. And that's one of the challenging parts of the track tonight, is that run through turn 10 all the way up to turn 15, up to Panasonic for the final corner of the racetrack could be very, very tricky for the drivers.
Yeah, when you're going out of the 300R, which is such a high-speed zone after you come out of that hairpin, you're coming up to the Dunlop curve. Then you have to go through the S's, the twists and turns and winds and curves of this circuit towards the back half of the course is the most technical part of this circuit. I mean, pretty much everywhere else, from pretty much when you come out of turn 16 Panasonic corner down over into turn 1, the Daiichi, it's pretty much all just flat-out full speed ahead for the most part. When you're working through Coca-Cola, the 100R, the hairpin, the 300R, it's those areas where you can really make up a lot of ground, but you can lose that ground and that time through those final 6 corners here, where drivers have to be so precise in setting up a pass.
As you keep on watching along with some of these drivers here, remember with the team championship, here is an interesting storyline to consider. Last year's championship came down to a tie, Taylor. Atomic Racing Proton and Throttle Thursday were tied entering and exiting the season, but the tiebreaker went the direction of Atomic Racing Proton in that regard. The team championship dynamic going to be very wild, to say the least, and you also throw Precision Racing Esports into the mix, as well as several of the other groups like Wave Italy also jumping into the fray, and a few others. Race Factory also someone to keep an eye on. This could be a wild championship, to say the very least, for a lot of these competitors with some of these new teams in the fray.
It certainly can be, and it's going to open a lot of doors for a lot of returning veterans to make their stamp in the pro class, and also it gives a chance for some of the future stars of the PRL Formula 3 series to make a strong run for the championships in both of their respective classes, between the pro and the AM class here. Now, one thing I did catch when talking and listening to the drivers meeting that happened earlier tonight is that the pro AM drivers, the AM drivers, do not have to really get out of the way of the pro drivers. They are actually encouraged to race against their competitors in this race in order to have a strong and exciting battle all throughout the night. So they're both all in identical cars. The only thing that's just different is the fact that one is just the difference of the driving handling as well as the setups that these cars and drivers have. So we could see even an AM possibly one day during this racing season take the overall honors.
David Holland, of course, leading the way. Of course, some backing from that team for Delta Sport as well when it comes to their performance. And David Holland, of course, one of the series legends when it comes to his performances in the past. Holland Worked with a lot of the drivers in the most recent years, but Holland right now still quickest in qualifying by about 0.2 of a second over Connor Wagner, his fellow teammate in fact, with Michael Cofre and Michael Diaz the top 4. So this qualifying tempo really looking strong when it comes to the open side for the Delta Sport back machines.
Certainly is, and it's going to be a very exciting battle to see the two teammates going at it for this battle. Michael Diaz, of course, in the PRL Racing Dallara, is sitting in that 4th spot. He's about 0.4 off the pace, and just to show you how competitive this series is, the top 20 separated by a second, the top 5 separated by less than half a second. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this will all play out and fare out between a lot of competitors, as Kevin Santana now just moves up to 3rd position. He is one of our amateur drivers in class, so he is definitely going to be one to watch here this season.
That's the 666. Here's Michael Diaz in. As we talked about the defending champion. When it comes to the Precision Racing Esports drivers, they put on some strong, stellar performances. Remember back from a couple years ago when some of their drivers first were making appearances under that banner at the time, and still under that banner, Caraballo also. Michael Diaz now under that banner as well, and looking to continue that up, and as you can see, waiting to sort things out and giving a lot of space for those who are in the midst of full qualifying runs, currently in the 138s. Last time by 133.3 for Diaz. His best time is 5th, as Diaz looks to try and go to full saw.
Coming up to the hairpin right now as he now makes the run towards the back half of the circuit right now. We see him working his way through. And as he will do that, actually that's Panasonic right there, so he's actually now on the front straightaway, so apologies on that matter.
I apologize for the issue currently. You may notice with scoring, we are currently working to have that up momentarily, or back up momentarily here. As you can see at the left upper left corner of your screen, currently drivers are just past the halfway point of qualifying, currently down to about 14 minutes to go, plus the runoff to close out the current circulating laps at the top of the checker flag. Your top AM driver is mentioned by Taylor is Kevin Santana, followed by Turner Schroll currently, followed by Holian Leon, then Steven Ritters. Round out the AM cars currently in the top 4 for this qualifying grouping. As we look at the run now off to turn 1 once again, this will be one of the major sending zones you have to think because of the long straightaway. This is Frankie Arvello, who is also amongst the top 15 in qualifying in the 133.7s. That is 0.8 off David Holland's best time.
Certainly is a great opportunity as we watch these competitors here trying to get up, as we see one of the drivers pull off, go out there to go back in the pits, get a fresh car, and continue on here as we see a couple of other cars trying to get themselves situated here for this race.
So how do you play this out tonight? Because as we mentioned, 40 minutes, 24 laps to work with. How do you try and approach the race tonight?
Well, one thing is you have to be careful and take care of your equipment here. Yes, there is a possibility of the pit stop, especially with fuel being at 50%, but you have to still take care of your equipment and watch out for lap 1, turn 1 here. This track is going to be very exciting to watch the run down into turn 1 when we start tonight's race, as that, of course, heads into the hairpin here to start the race off. So be careful on that start. Secondly, of course, it's a new season, it's a new track. Take care of it, learn the track as best you can, and find that extra mile or that extra tenth that you can utilize in order to beat out your competition. And then finally, it's a new season, also like we pointed out, be able to take on this new championship and be able to make your mark as early as possible. These 10 rounds are going to be very vital to see who will be the champion.
I'm really curious to see how drivers such as Juan Cofre to perform, one of the pro drivers we always seen in the past. For those who've kept up with the series in past series campaigns, the history of the dramatic moments of the Cofres. There's been up to 4 Cofres in the field. The Agril CF racing machine of Juan Cofre, currently mid-pack. And boy oh boy, those memories seem to really build up. One of them comes up to mind, Phillip Island, where a couple of them were in contention for battles. One of them had to dodge a major incident, past 6 cars doing so. You never know what can happen. As top of the board, a change for Connor Wagner, a 132.933 for the 51, who is already in the pit lane finish. David Holland trying to pick up some momentum with 11 minutes to go in this session to bounce back 133 flat in response.
Yeah, these are some of the first 132-second times that we've seen all night. The fastest in practice was a 133.1 provided by Rod Clenard, who had that fastest time in the 45 machine. He currently sits in P8 right now in qualifying with a 133.3. So he's about, I have to say, 2/10 off the pace compared to what he ran in practice.
David Holland already with an off-track, electing to go back to the pit lane to reset. Wagner returning back to the racetrack after some adjustments, wanting to try and improve the wiggle room, and that's the major thing. Open setup means you have a lot of flexibility to be able to adjust here. That's going to be the major talking point when it comes to this.
Certainly is. It's going to provide a lot of opportunities for drivers to make quick adjustments during qualifying, make adjustments before we get started with the race compared to the fixed setups that we see in some of the other PRL series that are run across the week. So drivers are going to have to utilize this and be able to make notes and take care of their equipment, and be also able to find where they could try to find that extra little bit of speed here at this circuit.
You see those different battles even in the midst of this qualifying grouping. And that's the major thing too for some drivers. This is a lot of this case being about sorting things together. Take a look at one of the PRL esports machines, for example, in the midst of all this. Some of these drivers you're currently grouped up with potentially in qualifying here, like right now, might be the drivers you're battling with for position. That's Michael Diaz, for reference, who's in 4th still.
Yeah, Diaz certainly now, well, yeah, he was 4th, now has fallen down to the 8th position in qualifying.
And you can see as well, you missed that Dunlop corner in turn 10. You better hope you avoid those barriers.
Yes, that is certainly the case. I remember the first time I came out to this circuit when it was released on the week 13 and tried that, missed that, and had to be quickly enough to avoid the barriers while driving a much more heavier car compared to a Formula 3 car, of course, but still, it's not easy to get around those barriers if you miss that apex into that corner entry.
See a lot of smoke kicked up as well here too. This could be one of the major loose points of the track. This is Caleb Petrie you're one with right now, who is trying to pass a car and getting hit. That's Alamar he makes contact with in the middle of the racetrack.
Can't be having that here. That will definitely cause some issues with qualifying here, as we're now back up towards the front of the field, as we're trying to see who that is out right there on screen.
Those are two of the Delta Sport machines, it looks like.
It certainly does. Let's see which of the Delta Sport drivers
That's Clenard and Wagner. In fact, Clenard, keep in mind, 9th in the board and 9th to the drifting.
And Wagner's trying to hold on and make his way through as Clenard tries to see if he can improve his time, sitting in the 9th position. The 45 and the 51 working together a little bit in order to get the run that they need here, as they're coming through the 100R, and as well as also going to be going through the 3R, coming up to the hairpin here in a few short moments as they make the braking zone and now come through up to the top of the hill and work their way through Net's corner, going around the outside of one of the slower cars out there on the circuit, trying to get his tires warmed up, and then makes the run into Nets before coming up the hill once again into the famous final corner, Panasonic corner, before heading down that long straightaway where you can get a lot of time gained if you have a drafting partner.
And exactly what they're doing here. Clenard feeding a ton of draft to Wagner. Wagner losing a bit of ground though throughout this lap. See where the times fall as they reach 150 miles per hour for the straightaway. Once again, lifting off with the 130.2, the lead car. Second car in the train had it off track, so Wagner now getting the extra bit of draft. There's the teamwork coming into play. Wagner is given the go as we take a look back at Wagner.
Wagner's going to stay out for another lap while Clenard moves up to P5, so he gains 3 spots now. Looking to see if there's really anyone else who's on a flying lap other than... Go ahead.
Well, technically everybody is, but some more trouble involving Olimar we're hearing on the racetrack. Negretti may have gotten involved with the O2 this time, one of the AM drivers. They're able to get back going, as you can see them already to the pit lane with 6 minutes to work with on the clock, with a lot of time to digest things, to be able to see how this goes. But you mentioned Kevin Santana. The interesting thing when it comes to Santana in the 666, Santana's done this well on his own for a lot of this, outside of maybe Joey Tebben, who's nearby, one of our fellow announcers.
Yeah, Santana's having somewhat of a quiet run right now during this qualifying after he stays in that 7th position, but it looks to be possibly your pole sitter for the AM class, as he has to be trying to hold off Huyen Luang, who is currently holding on in 8th, second in the AM category. Both of them not able to really improve on their lap times at this point. Max Shabley is currently having a good run. He might be able to get a couple of green sectors in for his run in qualifying. See if he can improve from that 21st position, along with Moises Carbello, who is currently sitting in that P10 category right now in the pro category.
Yeah. Santana, you can already see here too, is going to be one of those to keep an eye on tonight, because while it's a different class, you can still battle for the overall race win too. And I think Santana, based on what we've seen here, might have the tempo to be able to compete here. You can also throw Leon into that group, because in the past, they've both shown bits of speed in past campaigns throughout various different series on the platform. For reference, when it comes to these drivers, as Santana comes across with an invalidated last time, Santana was amongst those who did not score points, but it was Leon for On 9Jai Racing, who had a couple trouble spots, yes, but still finished in 12th in the point standings.
Certainly indeed, as we see Santana now trying to see if he can get another lap in here, as another competitor comes across the line.
That's Leon. But now we racing for this year.
A new team for Leung, who's going to see if he can improve and get a good run for this season. Still going to hold that P8 spot with 4 minutes left to go on the clock. He's able to pick up a little bit of time currently right now. He's tracking in the green, so he's going to see if he can improve on his lap time. So far,
yeah, that's
so
going to be the tough thing, is there's not too much help at this point. A lot of the drivers happy with where they are, it looks like. Only one driver in the whole field has not yet set a time in Oliver Hartley. Everyone else has set lap times. Hartley is currently out of the paddock, as in not on the racetrack. Hence why, being not the only driver not to set a time. You see the difference too. Keep in mind, dirty air is a major impact with the aero wash when it comes to the middle of the S's for Leon and a few others. Not too much right now, should say. But when you're in the midst of traffic tonight, that will be a trouble spot, trying to follow wing to wing in the midst of the section.
Yeah, we might see something possibly happening out of David Holland right now. He is on a little bit of a flyer lap. He's green sectoring a couple of sections of the course. We'll have to keep an eye and see what happens here, as the 18 machine is coming through out of Panasonic, down out of the final corner, down the long front straightaway here. Could he maybe try to dethrone, but also Wagner is purple sectoring a little bit.
Here's a look at the time for Holland. Can Holland bump it up? No. The answer is no right there.
Neither does Wagner. He does not improve his time either, so he will still stay in that second spot. Wagner still your pole sitter, as Julio Placio moves up to P3.
Placio indeed up and flying through that board. The 194 machine. One of the veterans in this series, bringing Fernando Rodriguez, Ryan Punchtill, along with Kevin Santana now in this drafting pack. They have a few more laps they can turn before the checker flag waves for qualifying. About 2 minutes to work with here in this session coming up here. And these drivers, amongst those to watch for with the AM's top driver, a few others, such as David Holland, have already made their way to the pit lane, while drivers like Connor Wagner are trying to get things done on their own, while also dodging some drivers who had got into some excursions like Joey Tebben. He's still following along, though, with the leader of that main grouping of cars, as Placio tries to lead them forward with about a minute and 45 seconds to go.
For some of these competitors right here who just crossed the line, this is really their last shot to set a flying lap here around this circuit. Some of them have set anywhere between 13 to about 16 laps around this circuit. So we'll have to see if anyone can improve here and gain a couple of spots as we watch on here, as Julio will work his way through the back half of the course, coming up towards the hairpin here momentarily. He just came out of turn number 3 over at Coca-Cola. And now coming up to Dunlop. You will now have to see if he can get a good run here. He's tracking in the right way, but he has to see if he can improve a little bit more. He ran a 134.2 last time by, not good enough to improve his 133.1 at this time, as one driver goes and misses the entry into the chicane as he comes up through Nertz and now over to the famous Panasonic, or Nets corner and then into Panasonic's.
Placio not having the best of runs this lap, though. Lots of tire smoke kicked up, expecting him to possibly maybe peel down. See that movement right there, 30 seconds to go. Drivers now have the chance to just close out their qualified runs from here on forward. It looks like most drivers in that pack, in fact, electing not to try and see what they can do, except for the 93, the 45, and maybe the 22 at the off track to try and get one more lap in. Leonard getting up to 5th position with that run, also quickly making a stop on the circuit as the rest of the drivers look to see who's going to be able to complete their laps. Only a couple will have that opportunity. The last of them, Michael Diaz, who right now is only in 9th position, so Diaz has to go.
He's got a lot of work to do as the checker flag is out here, so they got to get to the line as quickly as possible in order to make things work.
Checker flag already waving. Diaz beat the clock by about a couple seconds. Wagner's already closed out his run with the 132.9. Can Diaz bump up the time? He's already closing into the AM driver of Adam McDonald as a potential drafting partner for the rest of this run. Also trying to complete the runs, Petri, Rodriguez, Frankie Arvello. Here's a look at the heart of that respective pack right now with Petri looking to see what they can do in the 598, currently in 6th position on the board.
He's got enough time to make it to the start-finish line here as he comes up to Nets and then over to Panasonic for the final time here under qualifying. We'll see if he can pick it up just a little bit. It's going to be tight, though, as he is currently about just under a 10th or a little over a 10th off the pace to the next car ahead of him.
You see him close things up in the front straightaway. Diaz just got in a crash with McDonald at the other end. Petri pulls into the pit lane, and that should just about do it for qualifying. Every car that is left on track finishes up their runs after the spin coming out of the final corner through Panasonic for the final 2 battlers. Only one other driver now you see here is still on circuit. That is Michael Blaze, but this is not for an official time, meaning you're qualifying for round 1 of the season is over, Taylor.
It certainly is, and how about the strong performances by Wagner and David Holland to come out on top with the only 2 cars to break the 132 bracket here tonight. So a strong performance and a great way to kick off their season here in the PRL Formula 3 Series.
So as the 99 has a bit of practice time put in, just moments away for the starting grid for tonight's action for the PRL's F3 Series, powered by VCO. Glad to have you with us here from Fuji Speedway, here in beautiful Japan, right nearby Oyama. As the drivers complete their laps, it's time to take a look at how the first starting grid of the season will fare out tonight. Drivers now in the midst of the gridding process, so let's take a look at your starting grid for tonight's action. 42 drivers attempting tonight's run, 41 setting qualifying times here at Fuji. On the pole tonight, it's Connor Wagner with David Holland in the 2nd position. Difference about half a tenth of a second. Placio and Michael Kofre, the top 4. Rod Clonard starts in 5th tonight with Cale Petrie in the 6th position, one of the privateers. Then it's Kevin Santana and Leo Lin Ian starting in front of Michael Diaz and Moses Caraballo, 2 teammates amongst that group. Then it's Tyler Campbell and Ryan Punchdell rounding out the top 12 tonight.
Moving on to P13, we'll find the Ace Racing team of Turner Stroll, followed by Frankie Avello, who will be in 14th. Floyd Kerr in the 15th position, followed by Steven Ritters in the 16th spot. Steve Gagliari will be in the 17th spot, with Nick McLaughlin in the 18th spot. Rounding out your top 20 will be Brett Thurman and Juan Coffrey, who comes in the 20th position. Then it's Justin Negrete in 21st, Max Shabley in 22nd, with Michael Overbay in 23rd. Drew Becker rounds out your top 24 with the Indy Autosports machine.
Then it's Fernando Rodriguez and Manuel Vargas amongst the top 26. Guillaume Potvin starts alongside Jonathan Alomar for tonight. Then it is Michael Blaze and Brian Lowe, the top 30. 31st goes to Colin Heffernan, who will be alongside one of the top drivers from the M point standings last season, Richard Swindells. Rest of the field, Keita Adams, Devin Holland, Cato Carter, ZD McDonald Hilton. Drivers are already revving up their engines in preparation for tonight. As they get ready to go, the green flag is out. We're underway for a brand new season from Japan. One driver already with issues at the back of the pack. It's all a few drivers who get not going. 3 wide for the battle for second to start. 2 wide already as they continue to sort themselves together.
Everyone trying to get themselves situated here. Meanwhile, your top 4 is just covered in red as they work their way through into Coca-Cola Turn 3. Everyone having a great run here as they work their way through. And you're riding on board now with the 3rd place competitor of David Holland through the 100R, now coming up to the hairpin.
The drivers at the back you've seen in trouble: Joey Tebben, Colin Heffernan. Still up with the race leaders. Wagner trying to hold on to the tempo. Michael Coffrey looking to hold on to the draft with David Holland. Petri Placio also in the mix with Clenard and Leon in the main grouping as they make their way this time off the Dunlop corner for turn 10, 11, and 12.
Here they come through this corner here, and they have a superb job right there for these competitors of your top 4 as Wagner starts to make his way up through the next corner. Has a little bit of breathing room right now. About half a second separates him between his teammates of Coffrey Holland, along with the 4th place driver of Caleb, as they come out of Panasonic to complete lap number 1.
3 of the top 4 drivers, in fact, backed with the red and black logos for Delta Sport, and those machines looking to work together. In what's been a crazy start in the mid-pack, at least 4 cars, make it 5, have had incidents in this opening lap in the mid-pack. Manuel Vargas amongst the most recent. As a result, about 16th or 17th on back has lost ground. The battle for second is on. You see those drivers trying to sort together, also trying to take some peeks as well. The drivers right by Kevin Santana you see in the backdrop in the 666.
He's currently now dropped back to second in the AM category, as Luang is currently now your AM class leader right now, working through the 100R as they approach up to turn 6 now, as we see Santana trying to hold off Carbello, and Michael Diaz right now, your top 10 is rounded out by him. Then you go into the rest of some of the AM category drivers of Scroll, Putchell, and Ritters, who are in a very intense battle for that 11th spot.
Still the top 3 all lined up astern amongst all this too. And you have to think teamwork is going to be a critical part of this race, especially when you have a lot of teammates and at least alliance mates right in the midst of your pack here like this. The top 4 are have nearly broken away already.
They certainly have indeed there, Justin, as these 4 competitors are starting to work together. They want to get out of harm's way. They don't want to be pressured by anyone else and try to make sure that these 4 are the ones that will be fighting for position now, as we see one car coming off the track here on pit road as they work their way by across the long front straightaway here. But Julio Placio is trying to see if he can make ground in that 5th spot, but he's got a little bit of work to do right now as he has to try to catch the toe of that. He does have help from Clenard and Luang, who is under immense pressure from Santana, but they can still have a lot of work to do, but enough time to make it happen.
There's a look now at that battle for the 7th, 8th position involving the 7 machine. And Kevin Santana not wanting to be patient here and wanting to stay in the line. Kevin Santana, after being quick and qualified, wanting to showcase that race pace as Leon nearly spins it around. Gotta hold on to it, though, as Santana jumps by as we go back towards the front with the 51 of Wagner.
Wagner's pretty much in a very comfortable spot here, 0.8 of a second over Coffrey as they head up towards the back half of the course, towards the Dunlop curve, and then making their way through the tight, twisty chicanes here of 11, 12, and 13, as we see Coffrey still keeping close eyes and tabs on him, keeping him honest, but we see Wagner just gets great speed off these corner exits here as they come up to nets.
Wagner still trying to break away in all this. Been pretty impressive when it comes to Wagner's speed throughout the day today, one of the quickest drivers in practice. But that's to be expected when you have the backing that Wagner has, but also the experience we've seen from Wagner in the past across the platform. Very entertaining to see how this driver does here at this point, with Connor Wagner already breaking the toe.
Yeah, once you get about out of that second gap here at this circuit, you are pretty much smooth sailing and can break away from the competition here. And we see that now Wagner has pulled out to a second lead over Coffrey. Holland still right there to see if he can try and battle, but he's got to deal with Patry, who's on his tails in hot pursuit. Then you got to go another second back to round out your top five with Julio, as we see just Wagner hitting his marks, running a smooth, consistent race here, as we are now 4 laps into this race, approaching the 30-minute mark.
Reference when it comes to Wagner, guess what? He's also so happened to be one of the setup creators for this team. And his prime car back in 2021 was the Dallara F3. Like we're seeing, the former Oklahoma State University graduate for Bachelor's in Science in Marketing as well as Entrepreneurship back then, with karting experience from Dallas. Looking at the battle going on behind them, though, Michael Coffrey trying to hold off a bit of a hornet's nest. David Holland and Caleb Patry want to join their buddy. They've lost about 0.6 the past 2 laps or so.
Going to be a struggle right here for these competitors as they're trying to jockey for position, as we see the 18 machine of Holland trying to open up the gap a little bit and see if he can find that opening to get around Coffrey. Patry is right there as well, and then you still see right there in the background Placio and Clenard, who is having such a good run in practice and qualifying but can't seem to catch up to break into the top 5.
Here comes the run, though, for David Holland to the left side of the racetrack. Able to jump alongside Michael Coffrey. Coffrey tries to make it stick. Both of them locking up to avoid contact. Off the track they go with Caleb Patry.
That's going to maybe bring in Placio as well as Clenard into the mix a little bit with that mistake. They can't be doing that too much. Otherwise, if they go a little too far offline, that's going to open up the door for some penalties that they do not need to get here, especially this early on.
And keep in mind for Patry, some may mention, currently on a trial probation period for hardpoint by Delta Sport, entering tonight's run. So having to be smart here with lots of eyeballs on that car. Coming up for the battle for third, wants a chance on David Holland. David Holland lets him have it. Lets him have a chance to try and find a way around Michael Coffrey now.
Smart work and great teamwork between these two competitors. Realizing that Holland cannot find the opening to get around Coffrey, he lets his teammate by to see if he can punch the hole and get around Coffrey for that second place so they can go chase down their teammate and, of course, probably team leader Wagner as one car goes in front.
That's Blake Ziti, a lap car in 33rd, who's cutting across the track. One other car is spun around as a result here. That is still Ziti, in fact, trying to get going. And they are able to get by without collisions. That was dangerous with the 50 because in that sequence, but after that smoke, that 50 cut across the racetrack.
Safe to say that race control will be looking over at ZD to see what in the world was happening with that situation. PRL is very phenomenal work with their race control as well as handling penalties if need be, so I'm pretty sure they will look into that to make sure that doesn't happen again. But currently right now, out of the 41 starters who took the green flag, we're down to 32 drivers who are still out on the racetrack.
Meanwhile, in the midst of the Hornet's Nest, a lot of battling going on. This is currently amongst those battling for about 7th. Diaz has been able to jump by several of these cars this lap, but right now, Turner Scholl trying to close on up.
Santana around.
The AM-class leader has spun it out.
not what you need to have happen here this early on, as Kevin Santana, your AM class leader, is going to turn it around and get back out on the track, but he drops to about the 4th or 5th position in the AM class, 15th overall, which opens the door for Loyoung to now take over that AM class lead.
Puchtel also trying to battle with Juan Cofre, who is up 9 positions since the drop of the green flag. Biggest mover is Adam McDonald, plus 16, currently in the back of the pack. But this could get crazy here. Moises Caraballo amongst those in this battle for 9th. We're staying with it, then AM leader, and it's going to be important for a few of the cars here because Puchtel is right now top 3 in AM, trying to keep up with Schroll, who is 2nd in the class.
They do have a 1 car in between those two in order to battle for that AM class position. That's Juan Cothry, who is sitting in the 11th position. So Putchel has to find that opening, as we see Cothry trying to get around Turner for position, move him up to P9, maybe make it P10 as they go side by side. Moises tries to battle back on the inside, but Turner was able to power back through on that outside lane.
Oh, they touch tires a bit. Caraballo trying to sort it out. Able to back it up as the 4 car jumps up. No, he goes for the crossback. The RL car tries to stick to the right side. Going through 100R off to the hairpin. Caraballo has the preferred mark. Holds on to the spot for now.
Crossover.
Tries to cross again.
They're going to be crossing over a couple of more times here as they come up through towards the back half of the course, towards the Dunlop curve. And they're still going to be side by side. Who's going to be the braver of the two into the braking zone? They're not battling for respective classes, but this opens the door maybe for Coffrey and Putchel to get around Scroll.
4 cars covered under a blanket. Kevin Santana has been having more issues and just had to tow, so Santana is out. Meanwhile, they are still trying to sort out how 9th plays out. Schroll trying to keep up and sort together. Run back on Caraballo. Caraballo cuts back left. Montcalfrey tries to go wider line. Schroll tries to go to the inside, come out of Panasonic. Everyone getting a little bit squirrely. They've lost touch to 8th as a result of all the squabbling.
Yeah, right now this is the battle for 9th. There's 3 cars who are lined up nose to tail between them, as we're now going to see Scroll get out of line. Carabello stays to the inside lane. Coffrey tries to go the middle route as they work down the front straightaway here, heading into turn number 1 into Daichi. And it's still going to be close. Who's going to come out on top? It's going to be Scroll. Moves up to P9.
Turner Scroll able to drive along the outside. What a battle for these drivers. Juan Cofre not able to get through. Caraballo able to hold on to the position. Currently 30 cars still running. Currently on lap 8 of 24. Down to 28 minutes on the clock as well for reference.
What great racing as they head up into the hairpin between these Formula 3 cars. They are just absolutely zipping around this corner, trying to find great openings, great battling here as we watch them now as we go back up to the front of the field. And it's a battle for 2nd between another Cofrey and David Holland and Caleb Petrie.
Looking at that battle, they are 4 seconds back. 2 of those seconds lost in the past few moments. Michael Cofrey does not want to give this up. Wagner continues to lead the pro class with all this. Here comes Holland trying to build up the run again. Petrie right there with the double toe.
It's a good opportunity for Holland and Petrie to work together to see if they can get around Cofrey for that 2nd position. Here comes the big run of the draft for David Holland. He'll look to the inside of Cofrey. He now gets a nose out, but does he have enough to be able? Now Cofrey, he might try to go back to the inside lane into turn 1 into Daichi. Thinks better of it. Going to take the long way around into turn 1.
Here comes the cross attempt for the Wave Italy car. Not able to make it work. Hill Petrie doesn't jump up, but it's David Holland who does, up to 2nd spot, right where that number 18 machine had started the night. So it took a long while, but David Holland already, finally, able to get by nearly halfway through.
Great drive right there by Holland, and in order to make that pass work, as we see Cofrey now trying to struggle a little bit, keeping Petrie back, as Petrie is trying to see if he can find that opening as well as his teammate did as they work over towards the Dunlop curve.
Seeing a lot of that smoke kicked up as well, with some of the drivers having a lot of battling around the circuit. And that's the major thing, remember, when it comes to the Cofreys. Taylor, the aggression levels can be a bit higher up from them. They do not like to get past.
Well, let's be honest, if they're not, they wouldn't be racing drivers if they did not like to get past, as we see Petrie get a little squirrely right there. He holds on for dear life that time around, but he's got to be so careful with his steering input. He nearly lost it coming out through Net's corner.
See if Petrie's able to build up the run this time. Closing up a little bit is Glenard from all this as well. Keep that in mind. Owen is closing in as well to the race leader. Here comes Petrie, still a bit further back at 2 car lengths. Not quite close enough for the send. Will he still try it? He's thinking about it. He's trying the dive. Can he lick the stamp and make it stick? Nearly does.
The only problem is now he does not have the inside advantage heading over into Coca-Cola. Here they hit the braking zone, and Kofri will make it stick through there and take over that 3rd position and hold on for this time around as they make their way through the 100R over towards the hairpin of turn number 6. And Kofri is going to hold on this time around Patry.
Still looking to go and build up that momentum. This is the patience game coming in, Taylor, because it takes a lot of time in some circumstances to set yourself up for the right time for the pass to get it done.
It certainly is, and with these Formula cars here, that is where it's so critical to try and set up a pass as early as you can in order to make it work and be able to get around your competitor and stay ahead of your competitor here with these Formula cars, because it just does not take a whole lot of effort for them to get right back around you in certain conditions here, especially at a track like Fuji that has a lot of opportunities for drafting here as we go back out of Panasonic on the front straightaway here, and Petrie has to do it all over again to get up to the back bumper, or actually the gearbox of Kofri here, as you see Kofri just side-widening his way down the front straightaway.
Michael Kofri still trying to break that toe indeed. They've picked back up the time in Cunard, and it looks like Cale Petrie being a little bit smarter just to the edge of that gear limiter. So now it's just about that patience game, still in the midst for a strong finishing running spot with the way things are playing out. As you see on the pylon, your biggest movers on screen, some of your top 10 in top 13 have gone up about, some cases 7, some cases 5 positions the last while. Some of them gaining the lot spots now because Turner Schroll is 3 wide right now, you see on that pylon, and is currently getting in a crash. That is Juan Kofre getting spun right at the end of the racetrack.
That opens the door for Ryan Putchell to take over maybe the AM class, or the 2nd place in AM class. He's going to send it into the inside as they come to the hairpin. Can't make it stick, and Scroll holds on to 2nd place.
Perfect timing for the positioning right there with Schroll now jumping around to 10th position with all the bumping and the banging. Carabao going up to 9th position with it. Punchtel right there, though, is now battling for 2nd for AM class right there. No one buffering him as a result of all the contact there.
Yeah, he's got Moises Carabello right there in front of him as they're trying to negotiate up through Net's corner. And as they come over to Panasonic, big send right there for Putchell, who tries to make it stick, but it was almost getting ready to punt around that number 4 machine as he'll look to the inside. Moises Carabello is like, no thank you, I do not want any part of this, you guys go ahead.
Now they take a peek out towards the pit lane area. Will anyone duck in this time around? Already Steven Redders has had to come in and serve a penalty for an unsafe pit entry. They don't. Here comes Carabao with the draft back. Near contact again as they try and go squiggly. Punchtel tries to think about 3 wide. Schroll tries to stick it to the inside of turn 1, nearly hits the barrier. Schroll clears on by. Carabao jumps back to 10th position from it.
What a drive between these 3 competitors. Throw in also Steve Gaiori in the 56 machine in 12th position as we see Carabello look to the outside as he's going to see if he can make it stick before they get to the hairpin. He's got the inside advantage now, but I think we're going to see Scroll hold up. But here comes Carabello to the inside. They bang wheels briefly and now continue on. Here comes Putchell with a big slide.
Able to keep it clean, though, as Schroll jumps back. Able to hold on for 2nd in AM class. Run back from Schroll. Still not letting this back off. Taking those race control instructions to heart. Still side by side. Off through turn 11 and turn 12. Schroll jumps up. Carabao still in the prime spot for the crossback.
Caraballo's got to be wondering, come on, guys, we're not even in the same class, but Stroll is like, no, thank you. I want this position. I would like a little bit of a buffer over Puccio, as here comes Caraballo once again with a big head of steam.
Still not backing down in the midst of this battle still. What a fight, to say the very least. As they try and build things together. Caraballo trying to build the draft back. This is one of the craziest battles on the track, currently on the racetrack. This pack stretches now back to as far as 12th spot, nearly to 14th with the way this is going, although Potvin just pit from that last grouping. Now still side by side, looking to still sort it together. Stroll still holds on for the time being. Pit window is open halfway through the race, and that was a talking point. Pit stops not mandatory, but 6 gallons in the tank at a 50% limit might have been a factor for some to have to pit as Caraballo gets the spot back.
He certainly does, as a couple of other cars have come down pit road. Adam McDonald, Michael Overbay are some of the other competitors who have come down pit road this time by. As we watch on here, big trouble for Puccio. He'll loop it around.
And gets contact as well. Parts flying all around the car. He got hit by Steve Chiori in the 56 car.
And now he's got to try to get himself reorganized, as he's going to take the tow, unfortunately. As we go back up to the front of the field between Caraballo and Stroll, who are still battling for that 9th position. I gotta say, for Leung, he is grinning from ear to ear as he has a 6-second cushion over this as we go back up to the front of the field between Holland and Coffrey.
Still side by side, still trying to find a way around that 140. Michael Coffrey gets the draft back. Draft picked up by Petrie meanwhile. Back to the left side, down right side rather for Petrie. Big send to get the job done. Just about overran the track to get it done, in fact.
Yeah, with that slide, though, that might have caused some issues as Coffrey now looks to the inside. Big slide. He almost makes contact. He goes off track. This opens a door now for Petrie. He will move up to P3.
And Quinard jumps up to 4th as well. Exactly what Petrie was looking for to finally get by, especially with his teammate and David Holland running off to the sunset. Of note, Juan Coffrey now out of the race. Potvin, who had already come into pit, also having another spin on the racetrack. Plenty to discuss, especially with drivers getting themselves towards potential stops. Team strategy, we talked about it a bit. The bad news is if you're Atomic Racing, they entered 6 cars today, Taylor. 5 of them are out of the race currently, and 1 got penalized. So how do you make sure you don't get in that spot if you're the rest of the pack?
Well, the best thing to do is make sure that you stay out of trouble as best you can and play a little bit of strategy. If you have too many cars around you that you don't feel comfortable racing around, come down pit road, get that fuel, be able to see if you can leapfrog your competitors before they come down pit road, as we're still seeing currently 19 cars have yet to pit that are out on the racetrack. And looking through right now, currently no one has decided to come down pit road at this time, as we're seeing a couple more competitors come out of turn number 16. We're going to go 3 wide.
That's again for 3rd. Michael Coffrey's relentless with this. Once again, the crossover from the teammates. Petrie working with Quinard. Quinard stays to the right. Now allows it to back off as Michael Coffrey goes back to 4th.
Such great racing here now all throughout the field. We have it for the final step of the podium. We have it for the steps in the top 10. We have it for overall podium for the amateur class. We have it for just everywhere you look, battling for position. Great racing here at Fuji.
Incredible racing as Alomar amongst the latest to come into the pit lane, by the way. Down to the final 10 laps, coming up to 9 laps to go. Drivers have already reached the halfway mark on the clock as well in terms of the time. But that race lead, it's worth noting, could come down in quickly, because not only is Connor Wagner dealing with a bit of traffic, but David Holland is closing in. Here's a look at the race leader, who's already gone around McDonald, but the gap is 2.2 seconds. The gap was more than 4 seconds when Holland got by Michael Coffrey.
And it is getting even smaller here. Let's take a look at the times as they come across the start-finish line. Wagner with the 33.2. And then here we go. New fast time of the race. David Holland at 32.8. He is definitely a man on a mission here tonight.
David C. Holland is putting on the times and then some. Has a bit of drafting help too with McDonald, who had a bit of a spin before. And now it's going to be very critical for Holland to try and be patient here, especially McDonald struggling a bit up in front with that traffic management.
He certainly is, but as we watch David Holland trying to close that gap here to his teammate, he's got it down to about under 2 seconds now picking up to 2.1. But as he works his way around McDonald, he's going to make short work of him before they get to the Dunlops.
There is that management there, no major time loss, in fact, for Holland. In fact, gained a bit of time in comparison to Wagner with the difference mark. Still, they settle it on forward here. Connor Wagner has dominated here. All 15 laps led. There is a point for leading laps here, or rather fastest lap. So David Holland currently has that point towards that direction to be able to close up a bit compared to what Connor Wagner's been able to do here. Although that gap's down to 2 seconds.
And soon to be less than 2 seconds now as they work down the front straightaway out of Panasonic here. We'll see if Holland can really close that gap on this front straightaway here. So far he has, as they come across the line, a 33.18 and a 33 flat. Another 10 picked up here at the line.
This could get very nerve-wracking with 8 laps to go for the first race of the season in the first run at Fuji. By the way, the battle for third is dealing with traffic management and just had finished their traffic management excursions with one of the atomic racing cars. In fact, Stephen Ritter's. Leon has pit from the AM class lead. Meanwhile, the top drivers in the class, they are starting to consider the fuel, because this was around that estimation, 25 minutes to about 30 minutes. You can go on a tank. Fuel window is open.
Fuel window is open as another driver comes down pit road. That's Brian Lowe. He's going to come down pit road into the 43 machine. As we'll see if anyone else decides to blink this time by, as there you see your former AM class leader, Ho Yin Luang, who now enters into his pit box. Hopefully a brief pit stop to get back out onto the circuit.
And for those wondering, the majority of those drivers are drivers out of the race from the early attrition from the opening lap of this one. As we look back at some of the other packs, this is still the battle pack that's going on for third. A tree still leading this train. Clenard and Michael Coffray also in this choo-choo train. Lacio is about 3 seconds back from it. Will anyone duck down from this train now with 7 to go for the race leaders this time? Yes. Or at least think about it. Clenard trying to go in? Yes, he does. Clenard is in near full speed, able to get to the cone at 37 miles per hour. That's the speed limit here tonight.
Close call indeed. He really sent it in there, but great driving and great heads up to get down to pit road speed before he crossed that line. And so far, nobody else has yet decided to come down pit road at this time, as we're waiting to see a couple of others. Yes, one other driver come back down pit road, Moises Carpello, along with Fernando Rodriguez. And throw in the rest of the field a little further back, Tyler Campbell, as well as also Frankie Arvelo. Drew Becker's yet to come down pit road. Richard Swindell's not yet also coming down, as Becker comes down pit road as well. So the back half of the field is coming this time.
Speeding penalty for Drew Becker, by the way, 39 miles an hour to 37. So Drew Becker for Indy Autosport forced to serve a longer penalty from 13th at the time of that situation. The leader's in a wreck. Connor Wagner's been hit. Connor Wagner from the overall race lead has crashed with Baron Hilton.
Oh, goodness gracious. Not good at all. Wagner was trying to get around Hilton and unfortunately made that contact. And this now gives David Holland the chance to take over the race lead and possibly get a free pit stop with this.
Unbelievable. Let's take a look at the replay. This is a race changer. David Holland to the race lead from this.
Yeah, I don't know what was Wagner trying to do right there. It looked like he was trying to get to in front of that lap car of Hilton, but for some reason either Hilton just didn't give position or Wagner didn't realize he was right there onto his inside. Look, right there.
Oh my goodness. What a race changer. And that's a significant hit as well. Already in the pit lane, David Holland already completed the service at 4.9 seconds. Wagner 4.2, a little bit less on the fuel, but the damage is majorly done. How about 4 seconds back from that?
That's going to cause a lot of situations here, but for David Holland, smooth sailing as long as he can keep it out of trouble here in these final 6 laps, or now approaching to just about 9 minutes left to go in this race.
And Holland, now it's the true question, can he hold on to this? The gap is starting to go down a little bit after the pit cycle, but we'll have to wait and see. Goddard jumped in front of Caleb Petrie in the pit cycle. Michael Kofre cycled to 5th. VCO, Michael Diaz, the top 7 now. Leon still has a 4-second lead for the M class on the racetrack. Coming to 5 laps to go in this one.
Great opportunity and great heads-up driving by Holland to avoid that, and also just to being so quick out there on the circuit to make up that time to catch up to Wagner here in the closing stages. He does have some lap traffic coming up ahead of Holland, so he has to be careful. He's got Manuel Vargas, Drew Becker, Brett Thurman, Steve Ritters. The next one's up on him that he has to put a lap down.
This gap is going down and pretty quickly. In fact, Holland has dropped back to 3.2 seconds ahead of Wagner. Wagner's got a lighter car here, Taylor. Is that going to be enough with that little extra bit less of fuel? 0.7 of a second difference in the stall.
A little bit it will to a degree, but he's got to hopefully have enough to make it to the end, which should be by the looks of the calculations. But Wagner, though, with that damage, though, is what's the big concern right now.
Especially with how hard that bump was. Who is at fault for a scenario like that is the question. As you see the pit time specifically, how about specifically about 0.8 of a second? Put mark on that.
And that is a big help indeed. That might help save Wagner's run for a possible win here, because he's now dropped it to under 3 seconds here in these closing stages.
See that gap still circulating around a bit. And the tough thing is for Wagner, no draft to be able to work with, obviously. Holland was able to close in without the draft, by the way, mind you, though. So that's going to be the huge thing.
Now it's starting to stretch back out a little bit right now to 3.2 seconds between the top 2. And meanwhile, Luang has a comfortable 4.5 second lead over Scroll for the AM class lead.
We haven't talked too much about Leon, I will say, with the 7 car. Because, well, Leon's kept it nice and quiet. And really, that's the goal in a lot of cases, right? So a lot of the most dominant victories are the ones that are the most quiet and the most, in terms of the quietness, not too much craziness around you.
A peace and quiet run in any form of racing where you can come out on top is always the best run. And as we see Luang, who is currently holding on to the AM category, sitting also comfortably inside the top 10 with the 8th place overall as he works his way down across the front straightaway here. And it should be 4 laps to go for your race leaders.
Indeed, at that mark now. Tree and Michael Kofre are currently 4th and 5th grouped together still, for reference, by the way. One of the closer battles on track. You also see that a few of the others are still trying to sort together. This is, in fact, 3rd and 4th. That is now turning into the 3-car battle because, well, Glenard's trying to break away, but still is having drivers within his range. Michael Overbay with a problem is off track, meanwhile. In one of the TQ Race Engineering cars. Not a good start to the year for TQ Engineering.
No, not a great start at all, and that's something they need to try to get themselves. Thankfully, it's early in the season, but the problem is they have a lot of work to do to overcome as they get ready for the next round next Thursday at Suzuka.
They have Diori still in the top 10, but even bigger than that in the storylines to touch upon. We mentioned Atomic Racing struggles with 6 starters. They have 1 car that hasn't had damage today, and they've had to serve a penalty. That is in 20th.
Yeah, not what they wanted to have happening here in these early stages of the season. They gotta not make any mistake in order to have a good championship run.
Absolutely. Down to 3 laps to go. The lead is growing now for David Holland, so the field might be starting to become a factor there. And the interesting thing when it comes to Connor Wagner with the 51 in this conversation, Mark Taylor, you mentioned the damage. I think the bottoming out might be the bigger factor out of it because of the right-hand corners. Anytime there's a bit of a curb rumble, a lot of noise has been coming from a few of these cars with the wing damage here.
Yeah, looking over around the car of the number 51 of Connor Wagner, see a little bit of damage on the diffuser as well as also on some of the wing damage, so that does cause some problems for the handling of these cars.
Still following along with the TQ engineering machine. And it takes a lot of engineering work, too, you have to consider to be able to get these setups ready to go for a race such as tonight.
It takes a lot of hard work and a lot of preparation. Of course, for some of these drivers here, normally they run in the PRL series. There's multiple series that they run in. So it's very hard work and dedication to set up not just for one car, for one particular series, but multiple cars. And they take that time and focus on it in order to have strong competitive runs in each of the mini PRLs. And that's what makes this series so amazing. If you wanted to, you could pretty much run almost every single night in the PRL because they have something for just about everyone.
Coming up towards the white flag this time around, by the way. The battle for 17th, one of the closer ones on track. These are among some of your biggest movers, plus 19 apiece. Ross Cato, James Holland. Holland, the one in front in this battle.
Holland's now going to try to hold on to this position here. As James
in trouble in front of the race leader. Drew Becker is spun out right in front of David Holland. Holland gets around, but the gap is shrinking and fast. From 3 seconds up down to 2.
2 seconds and closing right now. Does Wagner have enough time, though, to catch up to David Holland? A challenge for the race lead. He's got work to do as they come out through Dunlop, through the S's, as they make their way towards the back half of the course.
It goes from patience to potentially a chance to dive here. Is there enough time? It's a long time back, Taylor. That's the tough thing there.
It is a long way to go right now, and then only a short time left here on the clock and in this race as they come out of Panasonic for the penultimate time. And here they come, white flag in the air.
Coming up to the final time around, Holland looking for career win 34. Wagner looking to try and spoil the party, 2 seconds back, looking to hope for a mistake. There is one car ahead in Steven Ritters for traffic. Outside of that, clean road for now.
How about this strong performance between both of these two competitors, Wagner and Holland? They have been the class of the field here tonight.
Trouble behind them. Michael Coffray involved in trouble with Caleb Petrie. Petrie zips on by. Coffray comes out of the kitty litter.
Tough break for Coffray, who's had such a strong run inside the top 3 all night. Now he has to fight and hold on to that 5th spot as Placcio holds on and moves up to P5.
The 194 you're referring to in 5th, but now looking for the battle for the lead, for the win for Pro Class. Down to the final quarter of this race. David Holland still with the lap traffic ahead. Wagner hoping for anything to come into play. Holland looking to close it out. Coming off through turn 15 and 16 for the final time here at Fuji.
What a drive here indeed for David Holland out of Panasonic for the final time.
David Holland perfect on the execution for the exit for the 34th time. David Holland will win in the PRL's Open Wheel Series scene, this time in the F3 Series powered by VCO to start off the brand new season. Wagner in second, Cunard rounding out the top 3, 5 seconds back.
Now we just wait on our AM class leader of Luang, who's coming out of Panasonic for the final time. He's wanting to see if he can challenge for 7th place. as he, or actually no, he won't be challenging for 7th place. He will hold on to that 8th spot, but as he comes out of the start-finish line, Luang will be your AM class winner.
Still in the midst of the battle, though, still with some overall positions. That was in a battle going on with some traffic. Schroll finishes 2nd in AM. What a finish to this one. It's still on for a few cars. As you can see, Michael Overbay amongst those. Not done battling yet. That is amongst the battle with Moises Caraballo. Drag race for Fernando Rodriguez. Rodriguez looking to jump to 14th. At the stripe, it goes to Overbay. And most of the drivers rounding out the lead lap finishers here, Swindells, Cato, James Holland, and Adam McDonald amongst those. Give credit to James Carter. Remember, he's from the Atomic Racing camp. He is the last car running in the field. 6 laps down after the crash, he fixed all the damage and still gets a 25th for it.
Strong performance, and that's why you always got to keep out running and racing till that checkered flag falls.
So with that, drivers have crossed the line. It's time to look at your unofficial race results the next moment or so, where in the end, it's a dramatic one here at Fuji, to say the very least. David Holland takes the win by about a 1.1 second differential between him and Connor Wagner after Wagner's issues with traffic management after the contact with Baron Hilton. A top 3, in fact, for all the hard point by Delta Sport drivers, as Rod Clenard also jumps there. Making a top 4 as Kel Petrie is also in that mix. Julio Placio finishes in 5th with Michael Diaz, Michael Coffre, Leon, Schroll, and Campbell, your top 10. A quiet run, in fact, for Tyler Campbell in there.
Then it's Steve Gahori for 11th position, followed by Frankie Arvelo in 12th. Moises Carbello, who was inside the top 10 for most of the race, comes home in 13th. Michael Overbay in 14th, with Fernando Rodriguez in the 15th position. Richard Swindells will come home in 16th, with Ross Cato in 17th position. James Holland in 18th, Adam McDonald in 19th, and Steven Ritters rounds out your top 20.
21st spot goes the direction of Drew Becker, 1 lap down after the trouble in the penultimate lap. Then it's Brian Lowe in 22nd. Thurman, Vargas, Pavan, Carter, Hilton, the top 27. The rest of the drivers behind Carter are DNFs, with Hilton, Alomar, Punchtel, and Juan Cofre, the top 30.
31st is going to go to Blake Ziti, followed by Joseph Tebben. Kevin Santana, who had just a strong start in the beginning, he will come home 33rd, with Max Shabley in 34th. Nicholas Adams 35th, with Michael Blaze in 36th. Takeshi Kita in 37th, with Nick McLaughlin 38th. Floyd Kerr in 39th, and Colin Heffernan rounds out your top 40.
That's a look towards the final 2 drivers as well. Justin Negretti and Hartley did not make the start here tonight. That's a look top to bottom now at your unofficial race results here from Fuji. As we bring in post-race coverage here tonight. What a race, what a round, what battles, to say the least. For Leon, it was the top running AM position when it comes to Leon tonight. Now joins us here in tonight's coverage, and Leo, talk us through your night here in this one.
Hey, hi there. So I have been practicing a lot this weekend, trying to find a setup, either thinking about high downforce or low downforce. I ended up with a really low downforce due to the track conditions today. We have like east wind, which is like directly heading from the straight. So I decided to go 1 click lower on my wing. So just trying to hang on to the guys in front. I got a lot of top speed on the straight, so that helped me a little bit. So got a little fight with Diaz in front, and yeah, I'm pretty happy I can hang on to the guys in front. And just take tires because the track was hot. Trying to like get as fast as possible to get a larger space between me and the second driver from the M, and I think my strategy works out great for me. Get a first win of the season. I'm really happy for that.
how would you describe this track? Because it's the first time this series has come here, a brand new circuit for iRacing. How would you describe the flow of the circuit?
Yeah, it feels a little strange to me at first. A lot of off-cambers corner, 3 annoying corners. We have a right-hander, left-hander, and another right-hander hairpin, basically. So it takes me a little time to adjust to it. But yeah, I like this track. I'm glad that iRacing add this track to their collections.
Indeed, and the next race is going to be intriguing as well because this season brings plenty of familiar tracks. Suzuka next up on the calendar, so back-to-back races in the region. Your thoughts on Suzuka?
Yeah, Suzuka is one of my favorite track, I would say. So I'm a big F1 fan, so it's glad to see a lot of F1 tracks. Having them in the calendar this season, and yeah, I'm looking forward to Suzuka.
Congratulations on the AM class victory here tonight here at Fuji.
Thank you.
That's Leo Yolian Liang coming away with the victory tonight in the AM class. I thank him for taking the time to speak with us here, Taylor, because boy, oh boy, was this a wild one. Was this an exciting one, but a dramatic battle up at the front for Pro as well, with Wagner in trouble with the lap traffic right before the pit window here tonight.
It certainly was, and it is just absolutely exciting to see how these competitors came out to be able to battle here. And it just shows that we have an exciting season ahead of us with these Formula 3 cars as we go, once again, stay in Japan to another historic circuit at Suzuka. And it makes you wonder, with drivers between Wagner and Holland, are these going to be the 2 drivers in the Pro class that will be the ones to beat the AM category? That's going to be a little bit interesting to see, as we'll see a lot of drivers battling it out, because Santana, I'm pretty sure, is going to want to try to end his run in Japan with a victory at least before moving on back to the 3rd round later on this season.
And I think you have to keep an eye absolutely too in terms of the pro side with not just Wagner, but also Patry. I think you can throw in the mix with the speed this season. Michael Diaz, Michael Kofre especially really picked things up. It just came down to, well, trouble with the last few moments trying to hold on to 3rd and 4th.
Certainly is the case. We'll have to see how this happens between these competitors, but it's so exciting to see these Formula 3 cars out on the circuit. iRacing has done a phenomenal job with these cars, especially with the new damage model that's been added onto them here recently. But this track, a phenomenal job. I can't wait to come back to Fuji Speedway once again later on in future races, but I gotta say, it's just an absolute phenomenal series here with the PRL Formula 3 series.
So as mentioned by Taylor, the next race of the schedule goes to Suzuka, where we stay in the country of Japan. That coverage taking place next week, same time, 9:05 p.m. Eastern Time. That is 6:05 p.m. Pacific. Suzuka with high expectations too. Very much a historic track in Japan, of course, with its history with the Japanese Grand Prix, like Fuji, but also one of the few tracks where you have it cross over one section to the other in a figure-8 style facility. Once again, that coverage taking place, powered by VCO for F3 action in about a week's time here on RaceSpotTV VCO. But with that, Taylor, I'd like to thank you for being a part of tonight's coverage. I'd like to thank our producer, Zach Johnson, for being a part of our coverage as a producer. But congratulations to David Holland, your Pro Class winner, and your AM winner, Ho Yin Liang, for coming away with the victories today here at Fuji. I'm Justin Prince. Enjoy the rest of your evening.